He's good with the sim. There you go. Got it. Now, this is one that will last long enough where you don't have to restart it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, awesome.
I really don't know.
Okay.
I'm not going to keep you long anyways. I know you got tons of shit going on.
No, you're good, buddy.
How do you fucking clean up so well? Jesus. I can tell you're doing the TV thingy, eh? Do you wear makeup for this?
No, but we could talk about that too, buddy. They fucking cake it on my face during the things. And I'm like, I'm going to start telling the lady I don't want any makeup.
So for TV in Montreal, that's what I did. They put a little bit on me, but when I do other things for like CBC, they paint your face.
They paint it. It's brutal.
Okay. Ready? I'm just gonna get going.
Whenever you want. Buddy.
I'll give a little this is the first show of year 2, so
first one to kick things off.
Yeah. We're doing this actually. Corey Hirsch, you know Corey at all?
Yeah.
Corey's going to be next. We're doing a big thing I'm going to do something on mental health. And
I did a sit down with him in what's the lady he's doing it with for Players Tribune? They're awesome.
Did you see?
Very intelligent.
Yeah. His story was pretty crazy.
Yeah. He's got a tough one.
Anyways, let's rock and roll. Let's do it. Well, year 2, show 1, and we blew the wallet on everything this year. We got our new studio. Actually, it's my bar that was in my basement. All the booze is a write-off now. It's all. I haven't introduced you yet. I have to wait. Actually, before I get through all this, we've been offline, off air. Biz has been showing me how to use a microphone for the last 5 minutes. So it's still peaking a little bit. I would just push it away just a tad because your levels are very high. This is my show, and Biz's teach. This is. Okay. It's all about the audience, right? So you want to make sure and listen, I'm not the audio guy. Grinelli just helps me out so much on it that I know the little tricks of the trade. So hopefully I didn't fuck up your setup and everybody can hear you nice, loud and clear. Well, you did the intro because I didn't get through the intro yet. I was going to brag about my new setting and a website and merch and stickers but now we've skipped all that and they already know who you are because normally I'd bring you in, but now you're already there. So I'll give you my little spiel. By the way, Grinelli is actually, you see Biz from Spitting Chicklets, but Grinelli is actually the brains behind the show that no one ever gets to see. Him, RA, and then Wit, and then I'm fourth in line. I'm actually probably even behind Spitting Chicklets memes at this point. Who's the kid who we found online who runs our memes account and all the other social now. But I was just so excited because I didn't realize this was your show opener. This is it. It's an honor, man. I see you shaved and everything. You look good. Yes, I hit the trainer yesterday. Got the fitness in, got the mind clear. So I'm ready to roll, baby. All right, let me tell you, 2002, 202 NHL games with Coyotes, Penguins, 7 total goals, which totally eclipses my 5. But I was a passer. Everyone knew that I was a passer from Welland, Ontario. I did some digging. And there's some good stuff coming up. I found out he's from Welland, Ontario. His parents, Yolande and Cam. We're going to get to that in a sec because I think he might be French. Biz might be speaking the Fringlish. First NHL goal came on Carey Price. No biggie. No big deal there. Kicked in. Was it kicked in? Like by accident, but it counted. And they don't ask how, they ask how many, right? So 7. And I'm happy because of the amount of chirps you laid into me on our podcast, Spittin' Chicklets. You got to lay off because I actually didn't know I had more goals than you. You suck on that. I have every stat and everything written down. Where can I beat him? What do I have? The good news about only having 7 goals though is you get to remember all of them. Do you remember every goalie? But I'll say this: I think that I could probably name at least 6 of them. But what's wild is working with Wayne at TNT. I bet you he could tell you every single one of his goals. It is amazing. His hockey memory for even other people's achievements it's crazy. It's nuts how he remembers it all. Like it was yesterday and he tells the stories and he's got the punchline. It's fucking nuts, man. You know, what's fucking nuts. I can't get through my intro yet, Biz. Anyway, he's bumping elbows on TNT with Wayne Gretzky, waxing poetry on Spitting Chicklets, of course, with RA, Wit and the brains Grinelli. And by the way, thanks for having me on your show, and thanks for being the first one on this year's show. So, buddy, I'm pumped. And I can tell by the makeup you threw on. You look good. I was telling Stock before we hopped on here that they cake it on me at TNT, and you were saying same thing with when you were on Hockey Night in Canada. Yeah.
Just like I'd rather be oily on television than they look like I have like this matte face that has a filter on it.
But do you feel it like it's when you sweat, you don't sweat through your face. You like sweat up here because it's like you have paper all over your face.
That's one thing they do at TNT is they got the AC going in the studio pretty good. That was one thing Wayne requested, especially with the sweater vests on, right? Because you don't want to start pitting out on television.
Well, you have your jacket on. You do have though you guys break it out for a few things.
Hey, there's some videos out there of people on television just pitting out through their blazers. Let's not get crazy here.
Yolande and Cam. Is it Yolande? Cam?
Yolande Bissonette. She's
you're French. You're actually, if the Habs bring you back, you would fit in perfect. Like Bissonette. I'll wait, Paul. It's Paul. I'll wait. See, Paul. That would be your name if you played here. It's Paul.
You know what the options were? They were either going to call me Paul or Maximilien. I'm like, how do you go from Maximilien and Paul as the final two options? But I will say, I mean, I guess I would get called Max, but Maximilien Bissonette, that's a lot of writing. I might fuck that up for the SATs. I might, you get the free 600 points or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you write your name properly. That's just
I know. Did you ever write your SATs?
No, come on. No.
I think it's like a free 200 points or something like that.
But going back to my parents, my father was French Canadian, born and raised in Welland, Ontario. My mother was actually born in Chicago, and then she was raised in Belgium. They moved to Belgium when my grandmother and the two of them. She had another sister. I think she was actually close to 3, and then my mother's sister had just been born, so she spoke European French when I was growing up.
Yeah,
and I went to French school till grade 7 is when I switched over because it looked like the OHL was a strong possibility, and I wasn't, as I mentioned, very crazy about school. So we figured, hey, chances are I'm going to get drafted to a place where they're going to send me to an English high school. I might as well, kind of like set myself up for success, excuse me. And I switched over, and I will say, growing up in a household where we would speak like half and half, and then we'd have our
You would speak half French.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of it where I can understand more of it when people speak it. I get stuck on so many words now. It's painful to listen to me speak French.
Do you sing any French songs? Do you remember any French songs?
I think there's some people out there who would argue it's painful to listen to me speak English too. So it's like I can't win, right?
I'm terrible in English, terrible in French. I played with a guy named Pierre Sevigny when I was in Hartford at the American Hockey League, and all the French guys didn't understand him. The English guys didn't understand him. So we used to say there's French, there's English, and there's Sevigny. And you'd be spitting every time he talked. So if you're French,
I'm a caveman. I'm a caveman.
Hot dogs steamed, or do you like them toasted?
I like them on the grill, like hot dogs.
Yeah.
But you're saying with the bun and stuff. I like.
Well, the bun. Do you want the bun like pressed, or do you want it steamed and like?
No, I like the way they do them at the Bell Center.
Yeah, it's toasted.
Yeah, it just gives it. I like when also the hot dog is too. I mean, I'm not eating too many hot dogs though. I usually try to stay away from that stuff.
So mom's working at school, dad's in the steel mill, which is crazy. You go from, speaking French in grade 7 to where you are now, bumping elbows with Gretz, and spitting chiclets. We'll get to a couple other things, but it's you go back and watch the Youngblood movie. You're actually the Dean Youngblood story. Like it's pretty crazy. You're from where you were to where you are. You're the Dean Youngblood story. Like it's so cool. Do you ever like take a day back and or take a moment back and kind of like reflect on any of it?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Sorry, I got a little distracted. I think my dog's scratching at the door, but yeah, it's
bring the dog in.
Okay, let's go. Okay.
Yeah. Get the dog.
Babe, is that the dog?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So we had more goals, and he had to show me how to use the mic, but I had more points. And I was like I was addition magician. He was more like an Ovechkin. I was more like a Gretz.
Okay. Well, they're going to hang out in here. If I call for you, then they want out. Can't keep these dogs happy for crying out loud. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind, man. And I was obviously I was very blessed, much like you, when you spent your time in the NHL, like you didn't take a day for granted. There was anything you'd be willing to do in order to stay there. And that was kind of my mentality. And I was fortunate enough to carve out a nice career. And throughout the process from playing in Arizona, I just kind of happened to fall on the social media thing. And, I spent a lot of time and energy into it. And it ended up leading me to all these wild places. And I guess my curiosity has kind of led me to a lot of the areas. And also the element of fear of when it's all over,
right?
You have to take control of your own life. It's no longer like, hey, here's your manual for training camp. We'll see you next year. And like, basically you're getting your ass wiped and everything's kind of laid out for you. Right.
That's the biggest thing I think that players aren't really prepared for. It's that next phase. And like the NHLPA tries to kind of tell you a little bit, but that's the one thing that we aren't prepared for enough. You're playing hockey from 5 years old to I got hurt at 28, but at 28, you're done. You've only known one thing. And like you just said, they're wiping your ass for you. They give you time, be here. They tell you what to do. Everything's structured. And now all of a sudden, all that's gone. And they're like, you're in the real world now. And you're like, everyone else is, gone to university. They have jobs. They have a real life. And you're coming out of this hockey world where no one's really telling you what to do anymore, or where wipe your arse or whatever. Yeah. You get kind of lost. A lot of people do get lost. So good on you.
Life could be overwhelming sometimes, like even for hockey players, especially ones that are not educated.
So would you want to be would you want to be then? What did you want to be as a kid? But hockey is one thing, but
I always said like an architect. My mom always joked that I should be a lawyer, just like how I would argue. But I think every mom says that to their kid who's like arguing about bedtime or whatever else it is. But she probably also told me I could be an architect because I build Legos, right? So, but I really enjoy.
Mom knows it goes a little. Your mom worked her entire life at a school, at a college.
Yeah. Here, give me 1 sec. The dog's chewing on the bone. I got it. Katie. Yeah, he's chewing hard on this bone and it's kind of melting my skull a little. Sorry, babe. All right, guys. Thanks for visiting. All right.
So some of the stuff you say, again, mom, you said she wanted you to be a lawyer. You built some Lego. You could be an architect. Does she ever look at what you do now and think like, does she ever look at you on Spinning Chicklets or what you've done on Twitter and like, can you not choose your words differently? Can you not say something else?
No.
Or she's all in on all of it?
I think that she tries to provide guidance. I think she kind of understood I grew up fast because I went and played in the OHL at 16, right? So all of a sudden I come back that first year and she's probably like, whoa, this is pretty intense. I don't think I talked to them for the first 3 weeks that I went to the OHL. Some guys' stories where they got homesick. Mine was, I always wanted to see what else was out there. I wanted to make that next step and go explore the world and see where hockey could take me. So she was pretty good at like, I'm sure that a lot of times she shook her head and she's like, oh my God, this guy's out of control. I beat to my own drum. And so she's not as surprised to see what's kind of transpired because she was there the whole way of seeing like, oh man, he's driven. Like to the point where like sometimes they won't hear from me for a couple of weeks because I'm taking a nosedive into a project or whatever it may be, right? So no, I don't think she's surprised by it, but she's like, oh my, like she's proud, and that's all that I could. She was so independent as a woman, and it rubbed so much off of me. And same with my dad, like they worked hard and they set up a good. My mom was very driven. Like she wrote a couple books, so I really took on my mom's persona of like just being like heavy into stuff and really trying to excel and achieve. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things that she ingrained in me, and obviously a work ethic. So I was very fortunate where that type of stuff rubbed off of me. And did we butt heads a little bit early on because of my stubbornness? Absolutely. Has she maybe told me to tone her down on some of the things I say? Especially when I was getting in arguments on Twitter with people all the time. Yeah. Like
does she watch the Spinning Chicklets stuff?
She listens, I think, if my sister mentions something, and I think they tune in maybe a little bit more now to listen to the interviews. Like I just had Coach Stothers on, and he was my coach in junior, and so I'm pretty sure that they listen to that whole episode. But yeah, she tries to step in and give guidance. But one thing that I really appreciate about both of them was they never got too overly involved, but they were just like supportive and helped me, get to where I was buying hockey equipment, driving me around.
I know.
That stuff is.
You don't have kids yet, Biz. I see the dogs. Trust me. When you have kids and you're like, you won't believe all the stuff our parents did for us. Because I do that now. Oh, it's ridiculous. I'm like, what? 6 a.m. practice? I'm up drinking at night. I can't wake up and I have 4. So it's like it's your life. Like our parents sacrificed so much for what you and I have today. So cheers to them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And like you said, like that's just kind of with maturity. I think at 20 years old, I think I would say it because you said it to your parents, but you didn't truly understand. As you get older, you're just like,
totally.
Oh my goodness. Like, how did they balance? We talked about how life can be overwhelming. Well, throw 2 kids in the mix and paying all that money to provide and put them through sports. So parents, man, they don't give enough credit.
So you had Stuthers on. You had Stuthers on. Who's been your best on the podcast?
It's really hard to say because we have some
just PJ. You can just say, and then you can say your second favorite after that.
Buddy, I love it was cool to have you on because I was just like, oh my goodness, this guy lived a very similar career that I did. This was so because at a certain point, as hungry as I was before, during that whole process of like going to the OHL and like bringing myself to training 5 days a week, which some guys in OHL, they won't do that. They don't care that much. They
had so many, there's so many people you passed along the way because of your work ethic. And you should be proud of yourself for that.
Well, yeah. And like, at a certain point, I didn't think that I was going to make it to the NHL. Right. So it just like, all of a sudden you kind of, you flip that switch and a lot of it just you get hyper focused on it.
So who's a guest that you had on the podcast? Who's been your favorite guest who's been your favorite and the one that needed the most editing? How about that?
I think we had Eddie Shack on.
Oh yeah.
and he was as old school as you get a guy on talking about when it was basically like medieval times dinner and tournament out there. Like he'd be jumping on guys' backs and, they just kind of, you could say a lot more and joke a lot more about. So we edited about, I think 15 minutes of the interview, but people loved it. It was like listening to their grandfather talk. So everybody just brings a different element. And sometimes we get these serious, like we just had Patrick Eliash on.
Yep.
And it was, it was great to just hear his insight and how he had the things that, affected him along the way and how hard it was to get adjusted to North American life and to hear like a basically a borderline, if not Hall of Famer, just kind of go through it and like learning English and coming over and having to set up banks, but along juggle this career and be used to things. So, and then you get the guys like Stapleton who went over to KHL and he's got all these wacky stories about how guys were like taking the Russian gas and he told a story on our podcast about how he would go on road trips and then he would come back and they would do 2-week-long road trips. And he thought his apartment was haunted because the furniture would always be moved a little bit. So he pulls his groin and then along with this story, he's telling about how he's having an FU match with the coach because they want you playing through everything over there, everything. He's playing with his groin's hanging on by a thread. So he ends up leaving the road trip early after getting an FU match with the coach, and he comes back, puts the key in the door, and the bolts on it, like the how they got the
can't get in.
The metal rod, and some guy comes to the door, and the guy who was renting him the place was staying there with his family when he would leave for road trips. So they would move the furniture around a little bit and then move it, close enough, I guess, back to the way it was before, so he wouldn't suspect anything. So in fact, this part of it, but this is just one of like 10 insane stories that he has from Russia. Like the owners coming in with bags of money, and the list goes on. So what's funny is you just hear about all these different journeys, and it's hard to really pinpoint one. But I could start listing off 50 names off the top of my head, but we'll be here. So everyone's got their own little thing, and having you on, going back to that was awesome to hear your appreciation. And also how much you made of it with developing all this now, like your media career, doing the Battle of the Blades. And you seem like the type of guy that just won't really say no to a lot. And it's brought you a lot of cool places.
Like my bar in my basement.
Yeah.
you just mentioned the name for those listening. Patrick Elias played years ago, and it's Elias, and we know it's Elias because we're in the game. But for people, it's not written the way it sounds, and a lot of names like that.
Most names,
right? So now that you're doing this big time TNT with Gretz, do you write? I have to write everybody's name phonetically. Like I can't. I look at some letters that have like one vowel, and there's like 10 letters in there, and I'm like, I look at the name, but I have to hear it, and then I have to write it down. I can't do it. I can't look at a name without having it written down phonetically. How are you doing with that?
I struggle hard. I struggle on the podcast too. And it's just names are difficult, and you're trying to articulate your point and remember the names and remember, what you want to say about. So it's just in the moment. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to mess that up, but that's something that somebody who's watching might, criticize. Certain guys, like, if you listen to certain of these play-by-play guys and they're really, really good at it, but part of my job is also watching and paying attention to other things to be able to talk about it on air. So, and I think I was Cole Sillinger. Is it Cody Sillinger's this kid who's playing now? Right. So either way,
there was, right.
And I was hammering it before I went on. Like, that's the one, the kid's this in my brain as I was going to, because you have to do a 2-minute segment and talk about different things. Well, I still said the name wrong, like his father. And it's just like, fuck, it's just something. I psych myself out because I get a little bit nervous, and I really want it to make it an enjoyable experience for the consumer. So yeah, but I think that just goes to show to my natural fuck up personality.
My first time back when OLN came out, I just finished playing OLN. Started hockey. It was like on the hunting channel, and they just in the States put it on. And I was with, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank, but from Flyer, plays for the Flyer, NHL on TV. I think he's with the ESPN panel as well. Anyways, I'm having a blank. I can't believe it. No, not Bush. Forward. Played for Washington. Anyways, I can't believe this is how
you're not talking about
Keith Jonesy. That Jonesy.
He's with TNT. He's with
TNT. Yeah. He's with TNT. So I know there's not ESPN TNT. So yeah, Jonesy was great when I first started.
See, you're trying to keep track of it all, and it's hard because there's all these fucking moving pieces all the time.
There's a lot. So I got my first time on, and I tried to do the KISS explanation, which is for anyone like us, the coach would be like KISS, like keep it simple, stupid. That's pretty much, how you want to play off the boards and out, stock it off the ice. Anyways, I went to say that and I was so nervous and couldn't get the KIS, and it just you're stuck there and you're waiting for them to give you words. And it's like, keep it simple. And they're like, Jones is like, stupid. The last one is stupid. And it was like,
Yeah. But I will say those are moments where, as much as you might get criticized, people like Jonesy got to hop in, get the insult in,
right?
A lot. That's what I have no problem being the punching bag. If I say something stupid on TV, chirp me for it, because people at home are going to be doing the same. It's like if you become the butt of the joke, like it's like at least that's where they're getting their entertainment. Now, I will say personally, when you are the guy there and you're stuck on your word and you know that you're on live TV, you feel like the biggest asshole.
You sweat. It just, and you're sweating, like I said, from back here, because it's not coming out.
You're like, how can you not think of what I'm thinking of and give me the answer?
They just look at you.
You failed me.
What the fuck's this Watson glove stuff? What's going on? That is the best. By the way, if you haven't seen it yet, folks, you have to go out and watch this commercial. It is the best commercial ever made. He's the CEO of Watson Gloves. So
I forced myself in my brain to be the CEO. It was actually didn't really actually happen.
It's not. No, it's just.
I thought that they were gonna like the pitch, So that was kind of why we tied in the ending. Like the actual CEO was like, "No fucking way, get out of my office." So
yeah,
Watson Gloves, a Canadian company. They've been making gloves for over 100 years, and my videographer Pasha knows one of the employees, and they just kind of wanted to revamp and we're willing to take a risk and do a fun viral commercial and give us a little bit of the reins.
It was awesome. It's awesome.
Not be afraid to like offend every single person and actually joke around and then we ended up doing the first one. it was successful. They came back. We ended up doing a glove collaboration with them, with all the Pink Whitney and Spit and Chicklets logos, and their quality of gloves are amazing. But it's just nice. I get to kind of, do this fun little project and create a commercial and learn a lot. And, then you move on to the next thing. That's kind of what some of the film projects early when I first got out of hockey, and, these things that I ended up kind of losing a little bit of money on, they took 4 months. They just taught me a lot about how the logistics work, how the being in front of the camera, the editing process, the voiceover, and just doing it all and having to do it myself. So you really know, like, sometimes when these people come to me for jobs, they like, we're the one-stop shop. They don't have to hire it's easy for them. Right. So I have my own crew, and we take care of it, and we're able to kind of execute at our pace and how we want to do it. And it's been really, really fun, man. It keeps my mind moving.
How do you, the gloves thing is perfect, because it's a great thing that you just said.
I appreciate that.
It's so awesome, but it's also, you've tackled a certain fan, a certain audience right now, that whatever you do, it's magical. They will, you say do this, they'll do it. It's obviously the Spitting Chicklets, the stuff on your own, your Twitter, your banter, the way you carry yourself, all that stuff, the way you're picking your nose, that look professional. It just, you know what, now kids are going to start picking their nose. That's it's going to be the thing. But
I've had it broken so many times.
I know.
I didn't win any fights when I played, for
Christ's sake. I just do this all the time. So I'm kind of bouncing around, but how do you bring that audience? Cause you act a certain way and carry and speak a certain way on Spitting Chicklets, on your social medias. How do you bring that, like the glove to TV? How do you bring that audience and get it to, I mean, that's a huge reason why they went out there, they're trying to make hockey, bring in that crowd. How can you be you, but be you kind of on a national television thing, which, you can speak a certain way. We can shoot the shit and drop F-bombs and pick our nose. But on national television, how are they trying to bring that audience there?
Well, I think that what's so good about TNT is they want you to be yourself.
Right.
Listen, is there a line between Chicklets and what it's on TNT? Absolutely. And that's why sometimes, like, over the course of a show, you're getting stuck because I'm used to going on a podcast and being like, fuck that, it's just, and that's how I normally talk. So there's a good balance there. And I obviously was able to find some of it with the Arizona Coyotes as well. Like, that taught me the actually more polished upside. But I will say, like, that's probably why I get a little bit more nervous for the television stuff. And that's, in fact, why I was surprised that I even originally got the call, because I'm not that polished up. I admire the guys.
But that's why people love you. That's the thing that TV's missing. And it's kind of like you have a certain flash to you, which is kind of, it's not the guy that's in a suit this way, that's square, and the way that you speak and the way you carry yourself. And you're like everybody else that's watching. The names.
That's
the relatable aspect. Yes.
I'm like, hey guys, I'm trying to keep this together too.
Yeah. So, like, do you think hockey is? I'm thinking of how to grow the game. The way they're trying to grow the game, obviously, is they're bringing people like yourselves, bringing Gretz. You guys, you had Charles Barkley come on with these guys.
Working there with those guys.
Yeah, you guys, you have that certain flash, but I don't think our game has enough flash. You guys are doing the one thing between periods. Do you think our game needs a little bit more? You like where it is? You like where it's going?
I think the market always dictates, and I will say from my experience, I think that sports media in general just started getting too overproduced. So it's like, This is not how you talk about sports, right? It's just like disagreements and this and that. And then so I think that if in Canada you go to an Oilers game, by the way, they have an unbelievable broadcast crew, right?
Yeah.
So some traditional fans, and hockey does have an older demographic, they like the way that they call the game where there's no tomfoolery or not too much of it. Same way that I don't.
Did you just use the word tomfoolery?
Yeah. Well, okay. For instance, Edmonton fans.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm just saying, did you actually use that?
Yeah, I did. and some of their fans might look at what they got going in Vegas and say, oh my God, you kidding me? Because they just like hockey in its traditional sense and they want to watch the play and they may be but like it takes a little something different to stimulate the mind in a different market. So I think that like if the Canadian television audience wants more of that, then I guess just kind of demand it. And
I'm talking like the on ice stuff. When I look at basketball, the NBA players have more flash individually, and therefore their game kind of does. NFL, same type of thing. Even baseball guys, I don't think we have enough of that in our game.
But that's also on the player too. Like
totally.
Like you look at Sid. Like Sid just genuinely couldn't be bothered with all the bullshit. Right? He might do a Tim Hortons thing here, a Tim Hortons thing there. He's off the grid. Okay. So as a person, it's like, would you hope that the stars in the NHL maybe show more of it? Well, yeah, but if that doesn't make them comfortable and that's not who they are, like, I don't want them being ungenuine. And if there's other guys who love that about it, and like look at PK, like he draws so much audience into the NHL. Some people might be like, not appreciate the way that he does it. Well, we're talking about him. He's showing me something. And if that's it, then that's it. So I think you're starting to see a little bit more of it. But if NBA guys, man, they're making $40 million. I mean, they don't take direction from the owners. They know the control that they have. So it's just kind of hard to compare. And also, like, if that's how things just were coming up and hockey players tend to fall more in line, well, then they do.
Who would you say has the most in our game? Austin Matthews?
I would say that it's
different,
especially for a guy who's in a market where if you're doing that stuff and things aren't going according to their plan, you're going to get scrutinized for it. But yes, I really commend him for his ability to kind of just be like, nah, man, I'm going to live and kind of do things the way that I want to do them. And he's a young kid and he should be able to do that. And it seems like he's like, well, if they want to criticize me, they can criticize me because they're probably going to do it anyway. So yes, I would say that he's a guy. I think that Connor's trying, man. He's trying because, he feels that pressure from the other side, but he also really admires the Gretzkys and the Sids and the guys who handled themselves a certain way. I think that it's great that they do that because I look at our sport and I'm like, these are the top representatives.
Have you seen Connor's house? They just did a special.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like he just did the Architectural Digest. And now fucking rights, man. Like I like a little bit more warmth. I thought that the overall build was executed well. Like I know some people are like
crazy. We should have scored more. Imagine if you and I combined our goals together. We'd get a pretty good condo.
And good. He deserves it, man. I'm happy. And he seems like he's really happy with his girl and she crushed it she's a designer, right? So she helped put the house together.
Yeah. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube or somewhere. I don't know. Check one of Biz's links. It's ridiculous. It's amazing. And
it flowed nicely. Like whatever they were trying to execute, I thought that they did a very good job of it.
LeBron just got suspended. What'd you think of that? You're a basketball fan?
I think that I found that I didn't used to like him as much as I do now because I really respect the fact that, given all the pressure that's on him and his greatness and everything that he's been able to accomplish. Yeah. Does he say some things that get him in trouble sometimes? But the fact that he was able to handle that amount of pressure and really deliver on all of the promises and expectations out of him while keeping it on the rails the way he has, and his business sense off the court, you just got to have mad respect. And I mean, yeah, he punched a guy, suspend him. It's, he's got to, the punishment is going to follow the crime, I guess. And if other guys are getting sussy for that stuff, but I enjoy him. Some people, I find that he takes a lot of scrutiny being the guy.
Who's hockey's the guy? Who would you say is hockey's LeBron?
I would,
you having a stroke?
I don't know, because I guess it's hard to compare because people would say, well, the greatest player right now is McDavid, but people in the hockey world have a hard time putting people at the top when they haven't won the Stanley Cup. So they associate it And I guess they probably did the same thing for LeBron, where it was like before he at least won a couple of them, people even weren't willing to hear the argument. So now he might even end up winning the same amount. They're still going to knock at the fact that he didn't go undefeated in them. So I would probably lean on Crosby as kind of the guy.
That's so I was, when I wrote that down, by the way, New Year, episode 1 of year 2. And thanks, Biz. Big year 2. I'm fucking making notes too. This is another thing. Like I'm actually like, I can't read what I wrote, but I'm trying to, there's some words there. But when I thought of, I was speaking to my friend before, Mish, who was kind of helping me with all this. And I go to Mish, I'm like, I'm writing this question. I'm going to ask this to Biz. And I say, I ask her, who do you think is hockey's, LeBron James? Because I think that my answer was Sidney Crosby, 100%. But I think what separates those other sports, and I think why hockey is taking that next step, but hasn't taken that real next step to stay in line with the Tom Brady, the LeBron James. I don't think we step out because why we love hockey. I think it's affecting its growth with some of the younger kids.
Yeah. I agree.
Because like we're talking
that's why I said the demographic decides. And like, sometimes like we're slow to make these changes where it's like, guys, if we don't make these faster, that's why we're doing the things that we do on Chiclets. It's because like the next wave of consumer consumes things differently.
Totally. And like you guys, as I said, the Chiclets group, you guys have every young guy, every and woman for, go ahead.
Yeah. No. Oh shit. That was me. That's just a small example of it all. Right. So yes, in some ways that the game in its traditional sense is really holding it back in some regard, but it's also certain things that we love about the game. Like we didn't even mention Ovi in the conversation of like who the LeBron is. And I want to say it's probably because he's only won one Stanley Cup as opposed to Sid winning 3. Right. I think that based on individual achievements, Ovi might even have more hardware than Sid.
Individual awards,
right? So you could also make the argument for the guy who's probably going to break the all-time goals record as being, because you think about LeBron, you think about MJ, and you think about basketball, you think about world recognition. Well, he's known in North America probably just as much, if not more, because he played in Washington. He's kind of, he won that cup more recently. He did that commercial. He's becoming more of a household name in North America, at least to the same regard as Sid. Is that fair argument?
Totally.
Now you go across the pond. I mean, Ovi ended up going over to China when they did that NHL piece. We're taking a picture.
Yeah, I gotta just do this.
So you could even argue that Ovi's the LeBron. He's more worldwide.
It's a great question. I think I like the way you answered it. I think though that's why that's why we're liking the Austin Matthews a little bit. He's a little bit more out there. He kind of says, fuck it. You're not going to like me. You're going to like me. So, and I think that's what you get. I think that's why you brought up PK before, because he was kind of the one that dressed a certain way. He had a certain flair. But in basketball and football, I think some of these guys, and baseball even, I think players express themselves and carry themselves a certain way. And I think we're trying to do that on TV. I think it's got to be coming up through the grassroots with some of the players. And I think that'll come because the younger kid is a lot different than you to me to the Wayne Gretzky's of the world. I like the way we put the three of us in the same sentence. Sir.
I think that taking more risks is a good thing. You're gonna land on your face sometimes. Things aren't going to necessarily work out, but if we kind of just keep delivering at the same, it's like, well, yeah, the 50-year-old turns to the 60-year-old, and the 60-year-old turns to the 7-year-old, and it's just like you're not concerning yourself with the next wave of consumer. And that is, you're just being very naive at that point.
You're in Arizona right now?
I'm in AZ.
Sorry, I didn't know you keep going. Were you going to keep going on that thought?
No.
Okay. I think you're in Arizona.
We're going a lot of places. So it's,
I know we're all over the map.
ADD works.
I know. Well, I had all these things and I didn't get through my intro, and luckily no one saw this, but it took about 20 minutes to fix the mic.
Can I hop in one more time on the LeBron thing too? I think that this is the first year that McDavid has had a team around him where he could help lead to the Stanley Cup.
Totally.
So I think that the clock ticks now because he's proven it in the regards of individual achievements. Now if he's able to win a Stanley Cup or maybe a couple in his prime, everyone's going to be willing to hop on the board of that's hockey's LeBron.
and I hate this. I don't want to say this, so I'm going to blame you for making me say this. If he was in New York, or if he was in LA, or if he was in Toronto, I think Edmonton is not as same as a flashy market as some of the, the basketball where LeBron. Yes, he was in Cleveland, but he's Miami, huge, LA, huge. Mind you, social media. It's all, there's so many more layers to it now, but no disrespect to Edmonton, but it's not a city that's as flashy as a Vegas. I've
never really given that any thought as to how much him not being maybe in a Toronto market or whatever. I just personally love the idea that this, like McJesus, as I call him, he can. You can't discount Draisaitl and some of the other guys around, but he has really revived that team. Like without him, even it's just like they might be they're probably out of the playoffs, right? So he can, and he's really single-handedly revived the market. When they got that pick, I was talking to my buddy Donnie Superstein. He goes, "That was $1 billion pick."
Yeah,
it was $1 billion. They were like, new rink. Okay, not saying that they wouldn't have gotten that without Connor McDavid, but it just changed anything. You got what you were. You remember how when LeBron was playing in high school, the expectations of him, he had the exact same expectations, and he's delivering on all fronts. And if anything, exceeded them. Now, if the other dominoes start following, like championships, it's like holy shit.
It is kind of, you think your bank on that. How many first overall picks are kind of, Sidney Crosby saved Pittsburgh. There's some save Pittsburgh. OV, that team was really, Washington is, for the last decade, has been one of the best places to watch hockey.
He's delivered on every expectation, and he's going to exceed them, right? Even if he comes near, he's going to get near the record. That's fucking crazy.
I know. I think he's the greatest. And today, the biggest difference for me when you watch those, there was a bigger gap between the first line, second line, third line, and fourth line. Now the fourth line players and third line are so good. Mm-hmm. The goalies are so good. The defense are so good that there's not as much of a gap. The fact that he's able to still do this night after night, and everyone knows where he's going, and he still can't be stopped. Anyways, we both live in. I meant to Arizona, Montreal, because our two teams suck right now. Like Arizona stinks, Montreal stinks. How do you go on and year after year try and make that team sound fun?
I mean, it was challenging at the start because you're trying not to be too critical. Because first of all, I wasn't the best of players.
Right.
Most of these guys, I would say half the team at that point I either played with or knew when I first started the gig. And, ultimately the organization did so much for me as an individual. I just want to see the team succeed and I want to see it stay here, and I want to see it flourish, because there has been some loyal fans that have been waiting for this to turn around. I also got to experience the some of the glory days. They had the Kachuk and Roenick days where, it was downtown and things were thriving. I was able to go to the conference finals with them. So I just want the people at the arena, all the helpers, and I just want to see everybody happy and have a winning team. And I think that that's kind of what keeps me positive about the fact that I know that eventually this thing's going to turn around. And it just seems that you got to take your bumps and bruises along the way. So I can completely understand a fan who just is from the outside looking in and being like, "Oh, what a dumpster fire. Like, move the team to Quebec." And I'm like, no, there's a lot of amazing people here who I want to see be part of the success when things turn around, because sometimes when you make large mistakes at this level, the chips, the dominoes start following, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh God, we're in another 3 to 5 year rebuild to try to become relevant and even just to make playoffs again. So, I think it's going to turn around. I think we're going to get that new arena, and I think that it's such a good place to play. And I think that that's going to be able to attract free agencies along with building hopefully through the draft. And people say, "Oh, the same thing. You keep saying the same things over and over again." Well, it's like, well, that's how you're going to turn around. If it doesn't, if we're here from now and it doesn't, it's like, well, fuck, we still haven't answered the question, have we?
CEO of Watson Gloves, kind of. Studio analyst, TNT, radio, Coyotes, spitting chicklets, things. What's a day in your life like?
Just some days it gets a little bit stressful because we talked about it earlier. Like I'm, just, I don't have all the answers and trying to balance stuff, but I'd much rather be busy and trying to balance all these things and challenging myself than not. So, and like, I'm still young. So like, there'll be a time to kind of relax on the back end, but it's been fun, man. It's brought me a lot of places. It's introduced me to a lot of amazing people. So I'm just really, really grateful. And yeah, that's like the day in the life is just kind of trying to balance it all and spend time with my girlfriend and dogs. And
how does Whit become not a big deal? And you're this, and Whit's fucking the face of alcohol now.
So I personally think Whit's the star of the show. I think he's fucking hilarious when he goes on his rants, his ability to tell stories. And, it was just another thing we talked about, like not being afraid to take chances and shifting with the demographic and what they're telling you and what they want. So he mentioned the Pink Whitney on the podcast when we had New Amsterdam come on as a presenting sponsor. And enough of our fans were drinking these drinks and hashtagging Pink Whitney. And, I have a buddy who I worked hand in hand with, Jeff Jacobson. He represents me as like my agent, good friend, helps with, the Watson glove stuff. And we kind of a jack of all trades. And he's like, you guys need to do like kind of like a novelty drink of this Pink Whitney. Like people love it. And I was like, yeah, I drink it when I can too. Like it's a great little mix. And Whit said no, Barstool said no, Gallo said no. And eventually enough people kept tweeting at us and talking to us about it. And Whit's wife mentioned it to him, and he called me on the way to a Halloween party and he said, hey, my wife said we should do this. I said, perfect. I said, we've already filed for the domains. We were just waiting for you to come around on it. We reached out to Barstool and they'd said, you know what? Gallo kind of circled back because they started seeing a lot of posts about it, and we came together, figured it out and did it. Did we think it was going to have the response that it had? No. We sold 807,000 cases of it in its first year. Like the alcohol industry had never seen a thing like it. Like Terramana with the Rock, they did 300,000 cases in their first year.
But that's a credit to you. You guys, that's a credit to you with RA that puts, that's a credit to the group. You guys do a lot of good stuff and work a lot. It's credit to you guys.
Yeah. We, like I said, we just try to go with the flow. And like, this is a thing that we might've sold 100,000 cases of. And then it died off and it went away. And you take chances. And then if it doesn't work, you move on, and you can't really sulk about them. You learn from it and you go.
As I've had enough time, you got to go. You got talk to Gretz or you got someone, but before you do, we're going to do a little rapid fire. Okay.
And just going back to the podcast, like, it takes an army. We got RA who started the whole thing. And I don't know how many people listening know the story. Me and Whit talked about it at training camp when we were on a PTO in St. Louis. He sent a tweet out like about a year and a half after when he retired. I was still playing, saying, hey, do you guys want to get together and do a podcast? I originally talked about a YouTube show where you go to the locker room and have these conversations.
Right.
I didn't even know what podcasts were. So Army was working with Sportsnet or starting out. He said no. I was still playing. I said, hey, I can't do it now because I know the way I talk, and they're going to be like, whoa, this is fucking nuts. You can't do this. And so RA reached out to him, and then RA came up with the name, which I think is fucking awesome.
Perfect. Awesome.
He's awesome. A genius for it. And so it was just him and Whit, and they used to do it on his couch at his house. And then Grinelli sent him an email about saying, hey, I could kind of produce and cut the tape and make it sound a little crisper and work on that. RA saw the email, ignored it. His mixer broke like 2 episodes later. So him and Whit recorded an episode after. It's like, oh shit, none of this saved. The recorder blew out. And that's when he went back, emailed Grinelli. And then ever since then he was on it. And then eventually they were like, hey, we got to kind of, maybe add somebody else. And Whit's like, well, let's
hold on. I think my thing just moved on me. Stay there.
No worries.
Hold on.
Did it stop recording? Did it stop recording on you?
No, I got a phone call and it took over my screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry, buddy.
I got to learn to set all this up. So keep going.
Worries. So then they was like, hey, well, Biz has been on 2 or 3 times and there's a pretty good response. And I hopped on and, with my Canadian demographic and everything, it just really like, the chemistry was there and it all worked out. So, just looking back at the events and how it all transpired, we're just really grateful that it turned into what it turned into. And we try to have a good product and keep it growing. And, I can't say it enough. We're just grateful.
It is awesome.
Thank you for the pump.
Mm-hmm. What's your guilty pleasure?
Smoking weed, man. I just love smoking weed. That's why, like, if I didn't do the TNT gig, I'd probably smoke a lot more of it. So, I got to shut her down come Monday. So I get going, but I love smoking dope. What's
your go-to karaoke song? I heard you doing Metallica the other night with the King.
Oh my goodness. I'm not although I will say he goes, hey, do you sing at all? Or do you know songs? And I was like, no. And then he goes, do you know any of these? And I was like, oh fuck, man. Are they going to ask me to like sing on live? Like, I don't, like, if it's live, I'm going to be nervous and I'll probably sound like shit. So Nothing Else Matters was one of the tunes. And I looked at it, I'm like, I used to listen to Metallica and I'm like, this is a pretty easy one. And then I looked at the lyrics and easy. So he was playing beforehand before we go out, and I didn't even realize that they were going to be rolling because Gibby, like the guy who's producing the show, in my ear, and we're joking around, and he's playing these different riffs, and then they ended up recording it, and I had the lyrics out. I was reading off the things, so it fucking ended up working out.
What's your last Google search? Actually, maybe you don't have to answer that if you don't. Yeah, is it? Are you going to check?
Like.
I know some people should just not see our phones.
Like Greasy Gorno, just fucking. I just get my last Google search is Patrick Eliash, and just going through some of the stuff I read about him.
What was your last impulse buy?
Oh, buddy, I'm cheap as probably. So the last like real nice thing I bought myself was a Bottega Veneta bag. It's like a big duffel, and I just kind of follow like some of the fashion trends, and like, this is one thing that I really wanted to. David Beckham had it one time, and then I like some of Kanye West fashion. Some people might say like, oh my God, I don't buy the Yeezy stuff, some of the stuff that he'll rock. So this bag, I think it was $5,500. I still haven't used it. It's still they discontinued them, and they changed their main designer at Bottega Veneta. So I'm pretty sure they don't make this bag anymore unless they're going to bring it back. So I saw it as more of like a quote unquote art piece where I could probably sell it for more than what I bought it.
Sell it. What celebrity bothers you the most?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question.
That's why I'm here. I'm the host. I got a new microphone set.
Bothers me?
Mug.
Could
it be Kanye? Could it be Kanye? Could it be?
No, I just think that there's another. He says dumb stuff to get a rise, and some people can't stand him. He just like doesn't upset me that much because I don't know what it would be like to be like a creative like that, and how much it would drive you mad. And also, so that My Beautiful Dark Fantasy, that one album he came out with that I think it won crazy amounts of Grammy.
I thought you were about to go down with your favorite dark fantasy, but stay on his.
No, it was a work of art. Like I don't know what anyone's feel. I loved it. I thought it was, and then now all of a sudden as an artist, you're kind of chasing that high. What else can I create that will move people the way that did? So yeah, he's on them. Yeah, he's a little messed up, but aren't we all?
Well.
I mean, look at you.
What's in there? What record do you think? What world record do you think you have a shot at beating?
Wow, you got some fun questions. Word count on a podcast because I've been rambling on this whole time.
When I went on with you guys, there's 4 of us, and I just talked for an hour.
Yeah, we're idiot. We just talk.
I know.
But. On a serious note, world record. Actually, I'll have to go back to it. That's such a good question. I'm on my heels.
Who punched you the hardest?
When I was in junior, I got popped in the face.
Junior, you go back to, it's so true. You go back to
a lefty, because I didn't know how to fight. So I just, he exposed me, and I don't think that was the first time I fought a lefty. The guy's last name was Herring. That was the worst nose break I ever experienced. I had to eventually get surgery. It's still messed up.
Mine was by a lefty, a guy named Paul Shantz in junior.
Yeah. You got to learn the hard way.
What should not be on a Thanksgiving table? That is
cranberry sauce. The cranberry.
So
nonsense.
Funny. Yeah, I was listening a lot on the radio the last few days, and everyone's talking about getting ready for Thanksgiving. Everyone's talking about after Thanksgiving, and no one understands the cranberry thing.
So the reason I can't understand it is you ask when every time you sit down and it's there at Thanksgiving, it's like, oh, nobody touched the cranberry, or one out of 10 people. Could we not find something else that's associated to Thanksgiving that more than 1 out of 10 people will like at the table? I think that's just, there might be, maybe I'm crazy, but I think maybe max 20% of people will touch cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving.
Who wins the cup?
Right now. I think that health plays a major factor into. I would throw a wild card on Florida.
Yeah, they look good. The problem is with Florida. I've picked Florida and Winnipeg for just Florida more recently. I picked Winnipeg forever, but I just don't know if those horses will get them through the playoffs. Every year, Winnipeg would let me down, and Florida. I love Florida. I love Florida last year.
I think this is what's so good about the game is I think everybody would say 4 teams that it's unexpected. And you're like, well, what happens when Vegas gets Eichel back and they they're healthier? And that's a team where if they get the 4th seed in that, or the 6th to 8th seed in the West, it's not going to fucking matter if they're healthy and humming. Same with Colorado. They have a team that could win it. Who else? Like Edmonton. They could win it. Calgary could win it. They got goaltending. They're fucking playing big D hockey. They have a great top 6. Do they succumb to pressure sometimes with that core group that they've had? Yeah, they have. But so have the Leafs, who I consider another team. Like if the Leafs are clicking like they are now, they can do it. Oh, they don't do shit in playoffs. Well, neither did fucking Washington for 10 years. Well, they eventually have the core group that can get them there.
You ruined the beginning, and you kind of ruined rapid fire a little with. They were like supposed to be like.
I can't.
Was like I said. Name a team. He just fucking named the entire league. You didn't mention Arizona or Montreal.
I said Florida, but I wanted to touch on. I know I fucked up the rapid fire, but there's so much parity now, and so many fan bases legitimately think they have a chance to win the cup. And I think it's so good for the game. It's the counter argument to the fact that we do need a hard cap. Do you think that they need to figure out a system where they don't penalize teams with no state tax? Like, do you think that needs to be evened out?
I think the league needs a small version of what baseball has, which is teams that do have money. We need a floor, I guess, which we have. We need a ceiling. But I think if teams wanted to pay over, like the teams that raise, Toronto makes money every year, all these teams that make money, let's say they have another 15 million, like you win a cup and everybody's value just goes up. Whether you did anything or not, you just, as we mentioned earlier, bringing it, back full circle, you have a cup, you just have that much more credibility. So now you're dealing with a 4th line player, but he's won a cup, so his value is worth more. And that's what happens to a team that wins. It's hard to keep it together.
I would be okay. Like I could understand
like a small, I'm saying a small tax. Let's say 5 cents, 10 cents on the dollar you can spend, but 10 cents on the dollar goes back to the league.
Yeah.
Back to the sharing
I think an even more competitive way of doing things, and I think that more people could agree on, is if they rewarded people for drafting, developing, and then keeping their own guys to where.
Well, they've added the extra year on the contract. You can give 8 years if they're part of your organization.
No, right. To bring the AAV down. I'm saying is, let's say that you're Toronto and you suffered for so long, and all of a sudden you draft and develop well. Like, what do they get Marner at? number 6 overall.
Yeah, so you got Marner, Matt, all those guys. Right.
You did a great job with your scouting staff. You took a risk, and then you get this guy, but you got to, because of his skill, you got to pay him $11 million. Listen, there's a lot of people say he doesn't deserve it, but that's what market value was for what he's able to do. I think because he was drafted and developed there, and he turned into that, his value should only count towards maybe 85% of the
good cap. Point. That's a great point.
That would be because like then other teams would be like, well, you also got rewarded for drafting and developing well. So that's I guess a way that you could combat it. You would just have to figure out what that number would be that would be taken away. So I just think that there's always, and also these players won't get, like, compared to other sports, they're kind of capped off at a certain amount because they can only make 20% of what the high end of the cap is.
Right.
So
a team's cap. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're right. The cap.
Like right. McDavid is the
max
most dominant athlete on the planet compared to his peers, yet he's only being paid, up to close to 20% of what is.
And if you do that, you handicap the team. Right, because then
right. You're penalized for it, where it's
totally.
Like, why are we doing that? So,
well,
and the owners want that hard cap, and I can understand. And I think the players want guaranteed contracts, and I think that's why it stays where it does.
Well, Biz, I hope you stay where
how's
you
that
are.
Rapid fire. What was the last one? Was there one more?
No, you destroyed it. Like, I don't even know. I started going down them. You kind of went all over the map. How about this? We'll end it with this. So now people will judge you by your choice of music. What's your favorite song? Favorite band? Favorite Backstreet Boy? Just pick anything here. Rapid fire. This is slow fire. Rapid. I
know, but there's so many. You get
favorite Spice Girl.
Oh, I liked the not Scary. Yeah, Scary.
Scary. There was the redhead was Ginger.
Oh, Ginger Spice.
I like Ginger too. There we go. Here we go. All right, Biz. See you at TNT, NHL on TNT, Spinning Chicklets, Barstool's podcast with the Rear Admiral and with Witt. You got him. Does the Coyotes games on the radio. Watson Gloves.
Stock Talk. This is called Stock
and Stock Talk. Yeah. Guest one. Year 2.
Congrats on everything, buddy. And I hope to see you more on the Boob Tube. I loved you as an analyst with Hockey Night in Canada. And I appreciate you hopping on our podcast as well. And going back to the world record, I'm just going to stick with most words said on a podcast in this short amount of time, because I definitely took up a lot of the oxygen.
Thanks, buddy. Stop the recording.
That was great, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's
it was good hockey.